Okay, so you brought some really fascinating and frankly, pretty intense analysis for us to dig into today.
It is intense. We're looking at this highly coordinated lobbying effort happening right now in Washington.
For what they're literally calling round two with Iran.
Exactly. A renewed conflict following what happened in that 12-day war back in June of 2025.
And we should probably set the stage there. That was the conflict involving both Israel and the U.S., specifically with Operation Midnight Hammer.
Right. President Trump authorized that. We're talking heavy strategic bombers, the B-2s,
Yeah.
hitting those deeply buried nuclear sites.
Vordo, Natanz, major facilities.
And what's so fascinating now is the spin or the interpretation of that outcome.
Because there was significant physical damage, wasn't there?
Huge damage.
Yeah.
But organizations like the FDD, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, they're not calling it a win.
No.
They're calling it a strategic stalemate.
A stalemate. I mean, what does that even mean in this context? They hit the targets.
Well, that's the key. For them, that was just mowing the lawn.
Mowing the lawn. I've heard that phrase. So just containing the problem for a bit.
Exactly. It wasn't the uprooting they wanted. Because the regime survived and, the nuclear knowledge is all still there.
So now they're pushing for what they call a maximum pressure 2.0.
Which raises the big question. How are they justifying the need for a round two?
And a core piece of that justification seems to be the internal situation in Iran, the civil unrest that popped up again in early 2026.
That and the economy. You cannot ignore the economy here.
The rial hitting 1.4 million to the dollar. I mean, that's a shocking number.
And that's their proof point for what they call the collapse theory. It allows the lobby to reframe this whole thing.
So it's no longer just a geopolitical move.
Right. It becomes a humanitarian necessity. The argument is that the regime is so brittle, one more decisive push from the outside could, just topple it.
And this is where it gets, I think, really concrete. It's not just talk, is it? They're building the foundation for this in Washington.
Not at all. It's being built right into the legislative framework.
You're talking about the NDAA.
The National Defense Authorization Act for 2026. That's the main vehicle.
So where's the money going?
A lot of it is going to Israel's missile defense. We're talking $500 million for Iron Dome and David's Sling.
Which makes sense defensively.
It does. But then you see another $80 million specifically for anti-tunneling technology.
And that connects right back to the problems from the first conflict, dealing with hardened targets and proxies. It's not just routine aid.
Exactly. It's shoring up the weaknesses from round one. But the money is only one part of the strategy.
There's the diplomatic and legal angle, too.
A huge one. The successful push to trigger the UN snapback sanctions in late 2025.
That's the legislative tripwire.
It's a powerful one. It restores all the old UN bans on enrichment and missile testing, and it bypasses any potential veto.
So any future action
Can be framed as simply enforcing international law. It's not unilateral aggression. It's enforcement. It's a very clever legal pretext.
So when you combine the money, the legislative pressure from groups like AIPAC, and the intellectual arguments from the FDD, the path is getting clearer.
And the analysis we've reviewed suggests the probability of round two is high and rising. They've successfully delegitimized the current situation.
So if this happens, what does that mean for the region?
Well, the thinking is that Iran would unleash its full Ring of Fire proxy network.
So we're talking about Hezbollah in Lebanon, tens of thousands of rockets.
Tens of thousands. And that's before you even get to the global economic shock from a potential closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with one final thought to chew on.
Yeah, and it's a really important one. Think about how they're trying to Trump-proof this whole agenda.
What do you mean by that?
They're writing these sanctions directly into law in a way that removes the president's ability to waive them.
So it takes the power, the off-ramp, out of the executive's hands.
It does. It fundamentally changes the long-term mechanics of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. No matter who wins the next election, it kind of locks in the path to escalation.